the thing about communication that I love is it really engages like 4 of the 5 senses. It engages eyes, ears, voice, and heart.
Yeah.
So it's like what we want out of a dialogue with whether it's one person, 100 people, or 1,000,000 people is we want connection and resonating, and we want there to be some kind of a transmission of I care about you and I care about what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
And every human is like that. So
Every
that's
human.
that's why I really like this work, because it's like I want you to feel, to understand that this person across from you
Yeah.
wants the same thing you want.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Christina Rahm, and this is a Dr. Christina Rahm show. And this is...
Yay!
Dr. Christina Rahm! I have an amazing guest today who is just a beautiful person inside and out. Janna Landry. Am I saying your last name right?
You are. Good
You're
old Cajun
famous.
name, Landry.
But is that your husband's last name, too?
Yes, my husband's last name.
So you took his last name.
Yeah, I took his last name. Finally. I didn't originally, because when I was in LA acting, I used my maiden name.
So she's an actress.
Yes.
She's an author. She's a publisher. She's a singer. And she's a wonderful woman. She believes in female empowerment like me, which I
Yes,
love. So,
yes.
because I think you're going to South Carolina
Yes.
and going to speak on the panel
Yes.
and then help us with some stuff. And I think there's an award for you in that, too.
Oh, I love prizes.
Me too.
Don't we all love little prizes?
We
Yeah.
do. But I want to talk about you today. I met you because of Nashville Lifestyles, but it was kind of interesting. Right when I met you,
We clicked.
we clicked.
Yeah.
You're such a bright light, and then you just are full of such great energy. So can you tell the audience a little bit about your background and where you are today? Because I really want people to know. I was so impressed when you kept talking. I kept thinking, wow. And then I would be like, wow.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always been a communicator. I've always wanted to know about people. And so I started out in my teens as a performer, singing and acting, and did all the studying and all that. And then moved into the teaching side because I was always fascinated with the communication part of a person, even the structure, like the voice and how the voice worked, and why some people, when I was teaching in my early 20s, how come some people just kind of open their face and just can sing, and a lot of it goes back to, I'll get into that later, but a lot of it goes back to just what they were allowed to do when they were in their houses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what their mom and dad or caretaker allowed them to do. And then
Yeah.
other people were so locked and they couldn't do that. So I got fascinated with that.
Yeah.
From a performing point of view, from the singing, acting point of view.
Right.
And did all of that, in the unions, did TV, did a lot of theater, a lot of singing.
What did you like the best? Did you like TV or did you
No.
like theater? You didn't like TV.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's very quick acting.
Yeah.
You have to be able to call up emotion very quickly, and it's very disjointed because everything is about cut, let's do it again, cut, let's do it again, and they put it all together in the post-production.
Right.
Which is great, but a part of the mastery of being a performer on stage and what I coach, even with speakers, not just singers and performers, is really understanding kind of your audience and telling a story from the beginning to the middle to the end.
Absolutely.
And that's hard to do in TV. It's great to do in theater on stage.
Right.
It's great to do on stage when you're singing a song.
Yeah.
And the same thing when you're giving speeches or when you're doing a keynote for
yeah.
people. You're bringing like an idea, a concept, you're talking about the concept, you're kind of tearing it apart, and then you're wrapping it up. And what's interesting is that's the way songs are, that's the way plays are, that's the way movies are, that's the way keynotes are.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So that's a lot of how I got into it, is being fascinated with the technical part, then moving into the performing part, and then from there moving into how to sort of teach people to call up that same emotion that we performers are trained to do,
Right.
but doing that in a way that captures business people or captures whatever the brand is, captures,
Right.
your platform.
The root brand, DRC
The root
Ventures.
brand,
And I
yes.
told you, it's so, you kind of caught, we talked about this. I never get nervous in front of people because my mother was an actress, a musician, and she was local. She wasn't like you.
Yes.
And she would tell you that she wasn't like this famous musician, but she majored in classical piano. She was a classical pianist and a classical cellist, but she could play any musical instrument.
See, that's- yeah.
She could sing, she could dance, she could act. She was amazing. So she wanted to make sure we had the ability not to do what she did. She
Right.
didn't want us to be her. Well, I think she probably would have loved if I had a gift, but I didn't have the gift you guys have. She kept trying to teach me piano and trumpet and guitar. I took everything.
Oh my God,
right?
trumpet's awesome if you can play trumpet as a chick. I mean,
I
a
was a
chick
trumpet-
brass player is
Yes.
hot.
Well, thank
Like
you.
that's a hot thing in the music world. I'll tell you. Like you know,
I took trumpet till I think my sophomore year in high school.
it's great for your diaphragm too. But
Yeah.
that's why again.
I
yeah.
did singing contests throughout high school.
Yeah, that is
and acting.
awesome.
So I was never nervous because since I was little, she had us since third grade playing the piano at a concert,
Yeah.
right? And you get over after a while when you put your kids in so many things
Yes.
like twirling, gymnastics. I mean, she wanted us in everything. And I realize now what she did was she built this confidence.
Very smart.
Very smart, where we could walk into any room and feel comfortable because
Yes.
we were exposed to so much, and you learn that no matter what happened around you, to maintain that composure. So
See-
now at my age, I don't think
You
about
don't
it.
have fear.
No.
And let me tell you something. Bless your mom, because that is what I deal with when I'm teaching people. It's like, okay, the first thing I ask somebody, especially a young adult, like into their formative years, 14 to like 21, let's say.
I really want Merit Ella to be managed by Janna. My daughter's a singer.
Yeah.
And she didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
and
that's
this is-
okay.
I immediately turned to my life. Can you help
Yeah.
my life with Clayton and Merit?
That's okay.
She's going to be upset if she sees this. She has the most beautiful voice. She has perfect pitch.
Yeah.
So Gramps Morgan, who I think is our next president of the Grammy board and a good friend of ours, we're actually with them tonight, coached her for about 2 years.
That's great.
And loved coaching and was always going on and on about Merritt. She could have gone on stage with him. I mean, he's won
Yeah.
Grammys. She's scared of being on stage. And
And
she
okay,
needs
so
help.
it's
Yeah.
just so the thing to do then is just to start to get her used to
Yeah.
small, start to get her used to being comfortable in her own skin. And a lot of these kids, that's what I tell them. I call them kids, but that 14 to kind of
Yeah.
22, 23. The other thing too, Christina, is the generation.
I know.
The
That's
Gen
problem, I
Zers,
think.
and this is what I coach a lot when I coach business people. It's like the generations are so specific now between baby boomer to Gen Zer because of technology and all the different ways in which we communicate now. The Gen
Right.
Zers, like your mom, threw you out there. You play the trumpet, you go sing, you go do
yeah.
whatever. The moms now, the kids don't have that kind of opportunity. That's the problem, and they're rooted in their phones.
Well,
So,
she does
you
stuff
know?
on her phone. You're right. I
Yes.
didn't even think about that because she's comfortable there.
Yes.
And it's different when you are in front of people.
Oh,
on
it's so
stage.
different.
Yeah.
It's so different. So it's just a matter, again, of getting them used to that feeling of what is my body doing when I'm up here and people are all staring at me. It's not that
I don't
different.
feel anything different.
No, well, of
it's
course you
interest-
don't,
it's
because you're
interesting.
used
I
to
don't
it.
feel anything. Like,
No.
And if I feel something when a plane takes off, my stomach, because I'm
Yes.
scared of flying. But being in front of people, because I'm just in an environment
that you're used to.
Yeah, that I'm used to.
So what happens, we're all muscle memory and
Yeah.
subconscious. That's the
Right.
way the brain works. So a lot of what I talk about with these
Yeah.
people is, okay, your brain's going to do this. Your body's going to do this. You're going to have the cortisol, and you're going to have anxiety and the adrenaline, and you have what we call brain fog. Like your
Yeah.
brain goes, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what I was supposed to do, what I'm supposed to say. So there are exercises that
Yeah.
we teach, that I teach, and that most people, coaches and vocalists and acting teachers teach to start to get your body used to that process. And again, it's muscle memory. The brain goes, oh, okay, nothing's going to blow up here if I'm on stage. Nothing's going to happen to me physically, So
Yeah.
you've got to kind of get used to that,
Right.
the physicality. And then, of course, there's the voice part of it. There's the technical part of the speaking voice, the singing voice, the acting voice.
And you love all
that.
that.
I love all that.
But you were in
love it.
bands. Which bands were you in?
Well, I've been in bands, a whole lot of bands. I mean, that's like
our
a loaded.
audience wants to know, don't they, Stephanie?
Okay, so I sang a little bit with the newer version of First Edition when Terry Williams put it back together, way after Kenny and stuff, because it originally had 2 female singers.
Yeah.
So I did that a little bit, and we did, Vegas and LA and all that stuff. Did a lot of singing on my own, just jazz and R&B.
Yeah.
I taught at Dick Grove Music for a while, so I was a teacher in an LA, that was a big LA school. And now I'm singing with a band called Child's Anthem, the music of Toto, and that's the big. I mean,
Your
that's
husband was in Toto.
yeah, because my husband sang with Bobby Kimball on the Hydra Tour in Toto. So that band is unbelievable. And we do, we tour and stuff.
That's a big deal, isn't it?
Well, Toto was
a
a
big
really
deal.
good band.
Yeah.
Like the musicianship was kind of a different level. And they
That's
played.
interesting, and I have to say this. I talked to you about this earlier because I was doing a podcast with Scott Page.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I felt like he was as he mentioned Toto, that it was a big deal to him in his
Yes,
career. Yeah,
yes.
so I know, I mean, I love Toto. I love Pink Floyd. He was in Pink Floyd
Yes.
too. But he made as big of a deal about Toto.
Well, what
as
was
he-
interesting about Toto was they were all these background musicians for a lot of these big bands,
Yeah.
and then they put Toto together. So
Yeah.
the level of playing in
that's
Toto,
what he said,
they played on thousands of records in the 80s and 90s. Like they would
Most
just
people
grab
didn't
some
realize
of those people.
that.
Oh
You
my
know
gosh.
that.
And we do a medley. Actually, in the
Yeah.
show, we have 2 different medleys where we play some of these songs like, Human Nature and Get Physical by Olivia
yeah.
Newton-John. All these things that Steve and Dave and all these people played on.
Yeah.
And so
I
it
mean,
was
these
really,
famous songs
Yeah,
that to
famous
this day
songs.
our youth know. Like my kids
Right.
know that song.
Yeah. So that was what was amazing about Toto is the musicianship. Like even the rock bands of the 80s were like, oh, Toto, man, they're so good. So
Yeah.
So it's really fun to be in a tribute band
Oh,
doing
yeah.
Toto, especially with the level of music. We have unbelievable musicians in this band. I mean, they're
Well, we're
stellar.
in Nashville, so
Yeah.
you're able to draw from the best
Yeah.
talent I feel like in the world.
great,
here.
great talent
Yeah.
in the band. So look at the website. Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to go hear your band.
Me too. I want to hear my band.
When do they play? Do they play for private events too?
We do private events. We're doing the Franklin Theater, I think August 8th this year at in Franklin, and we've got some stuff in Wisconsin, some things in Florida, some things in we do things here and there. But again, Toto's a heady band, so it's not like a Journey band or
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
specialized, I'll say, for us to book. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great band. I have a blast. I'm
That's
the chick.
awesome.
I'm the token chick singer, because they always had like a girl in
Yeah.
some of the songs, like Georgie Porgy.
Yeah.
They had Cheryl Lynn, and there are a few songs that they did where they would bring in a
Right.
female singer. And then I get to do the medleys because so many of those songs were female songs.
How
So
fun is that?
that's fun. Plus, I get
Does
to.
your voice change as you age?
It can. It
That's what I was
depends.
gonna-
Yes.
I've wanted to ask that for a long time.
That's a good question. Yes, it can. It just from using it.
Yes.
It's a bunch of muscles.
Yeah.
So it can. Now it can change for the good, not for the good, but I mean it can change in a good way and still stay really healthy and
Yeah.
nice pitch and good vibrato and all that. And then if you abuse it, depending on how what goes on. I mean it's body stuff, so you got to take care of it.
Yeah, because I was just at the inauguration, and I'm not going to mention the band.
Yeah.
But they bring in a lot of famous
Oh, yeah.
people to sing.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the individuals that sang, he's older.
Yeah.
And he couldn't sing.
No.
And I'm like, what is happening? It's one of my favorite musicians. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't understand what happened to his voice.
So here's what happened from a technical point of view. If he didn't continue to exercise it with real resonant good exercises, kind of like a ballerina doing leg lifts,
Yeah.
just keeping those quads, and keeping everything really healthy, or if he abused it. And the unfortunate thing in the 80s and 90s is,
Yeah.
well, and even now, is you've got to be real careful what you put in your body to keep your voice up.
Well,
know?
same way now.
Absolutely.
Like I have a lot of people
Absolutely.
that talk to me about vaping and like
Yep.
different things, and I'm like, listen, I was a scientist. This was years ago when our country was looking at bringing in vaping.
Oh my gosh.
And I actually
can't
consulted
imagine
on a
that.
project because they were submitting information. You had to submit to the government to prove that
Mm-hmm.
it was better they were trying to prove it was better than smoking a cigarette or doing something. I was shocked when I went to the mall. I think Kreider, my son, was, 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And they had vape pens in the mall that kids could get,
Oh makes me
flavored
crazy.
vape pens, because it went under the radar for
Mm-hmm.
a while. And then, of course, the government stepped up and started saying, well, we now realize that vaping on a continuous basis, it's bad for your lungs too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're
And your
inhaling
vocal
a
cords and your-
chemical
yeah.
substance, I don't care what it is. It's not
don't care
meant.
what it
yeah,
is,
it does. It's
no.
not meant to. That's not what the lungs are for.
No.
So that's part of it. Is keeping your lungs healthy, keeping your vocal cords,
Yeah.
and all the muscles. There's 28 muscles that are involved
Yeah.
in singing, in producing a singing
Yeah.
voice, and you just got to stay healthy, just like
Yeah.
with anything. You got to keep your breathing up. So I always talk to
You can
people.
still have tequila.
Yeah, of course you can. I've learned from Dr.
Janna.
Christina Rahm that I can actually drink a high-grade tequila. Yay! And be okay. I'm so excited because we got to have something.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am a woman in a certain age range. I have to have something. Sorry.
Last night we had a really long day yesterday, and one of the attorneys that we work with shot me a text and said, you need a shot of tequila. And then he said, but there's never such thing as a shot. And then he sends me a picture of his glass because he's in the thing. And I'm like, you're right, I do. But unfortunately, that wasn't in my card gesture. It was like this big glass.
Now, that's a healthy shot.
He's a great guy, and he's trying to make me laugh. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway.
I get it.
So now you're here in Nashville.
I am in Nashville.
And your husband
is here,
and he's in the band you're in.
He's in the band I'm in. He also sings in a couple other bands. He still does a lot of session work. We've got people in Europe that, are big Toto fans that remember him and remember his voice. He sang on probably 4 or 5 movie theme things and sang with Lee Greenwood for 9 years. And
wow.
Did
I
a lot
love
of,
Lee Greenwood.
Oh, Lee's great. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
A great guy. And now that's a perfect example of a man that has done very, very well at keeping that voice healthy.
Yeah, because I heard him sing, gosh, it's been a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Just
he sounds great.
Couldn't notice a difference.
No,
I mean,
he sounds
just
great.
Beautiful. Yeah.
He's done very, very well. And he takes care of himself. He is like an Energizer bunny. I mean, he is always, he's great. He's very healthy and he keeps himself that way.
Well, I also saw at the Sphere, the Eagles and not Bob Marley. Do you remember the band I saw? It was the other big band that they had at the stadium.
At the Sphere, yeah.
I can't remember. It was really, really good, but their voices were great. And the Eagles, because I lived in Mobile, Alabama for 12 years, went to college down there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Buffett was there.
Yes.
So the Eagles and all those bands we're talking about came to Mobile, Alabama and Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, because that was a
they
big...
loved it was a party, Floribama.
Yeah,
and all that
Floribama,
stuff.
I love it.
I love Floribama. Look, we
Hey,
know
those bushwhackers. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. You
guys, but here's what's interesting.
What?
Being a
That's my favorite drink in the
Oh,
world.
my gosh.
Do you know when you travel to other places, they don't even know what a bushwhacker is?
Oh, my gosh, honey.
It's the best drink ever.
They do amazing bushwhackers. I didn't even know anything about
Clean Spirits. I'm talking
I know.
about alcohol today.
I know.
Our product, Clean Spirits, helps with
Okay, good. Then we'll just dump some of that in it because these bushwhackers, I'm telling you, I didn't know anything about Floribama because I'm a California girl. I've been in Nashville a long time, but my girlfriends take me down there and we go to Floribama.
When's the first time? I grew up there.
Oh, like
How
2
bad
years
is that?
2 or 3 years ago is the first time I went there, and they kept talking. Oh, you gotta have a bushwhacker.
My
bushwhacker.
kids, when they went,
my
we've taken our
gosh.
kids, of course, because
Yeah.
for me, like even with Clay, when I met Clay, I'm like, you haven't been to Floribama?
I know.
I'm
That's
like,
what-
what? Because I lived there for 12 years. So, and at one point I was a Red Bull girl on the
Oh,
beach.
yeah,
That's
was a
something
big.
I want to
Oh,
put
yeah.
a certificate on my wall for.
Yeah.
No,
That was. I remember that. Oh, honey,
you remember
Red,
that
Red,
era?
remember Red Bull and vodka.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Oh
that was
my
a
gosh,
big girl
that,
drink.
That was a girl's drink.
Yes, because
we
it was
didn't
a little
wanna
bit
gain
less
weight,
calories.
Had less calories.
And gave you the little Red
gave
Bull
you
buzz, but
yeah,
then
and so that was what we all.
that was a
yeah.
big drink. Still is a big drink.
But we would have a stand, and then we stay at the hotel right by Floribama.
Yeah.
And then go to Floribama, and the bands there were phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
The fun there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really. There's places for kids there too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're
Yes.
they're. It's a really amazing place. It really,
is.
really is.
It's really fun.
It's
I had
really
no
fun,
idea.
but they do the big names.
Yeah.
I mean, they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to bring them to those beach communities because that's where all
I
of the
know.
whole this half of the country just that's where they want to go.
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I want
get
to
it.
live down there. Instead, I'm here because
That's
I don't
right.
work. I can't have bushwhackers every day anymore.
No, you can't. But wouldn't it be fun if we could? Yeah. Here's what we have to figure out. Let's make bushwhackers with clean tequila.
No, I'm thinking we need to go on a girls' trip to
Oh
Floribama.
yeah. Oh, I've been on a few girl trips and it got really, really bad.
What?
Well, first off, bushwhackers. You know, they're bushwhackers. I know. Honey, you have 2 of those and you're on
you can't have more than 2.
you're
So just
on
so the
your hiney.
audience knows, a bushwhacker has. So everyone makes them different everywhere,
Yes.
but you need to have one either really in Gulf Shores.
Yes.
Mobile, Alabama is another place because they did those there. You know, you had Lulu's, Jimmy Buffett's place was there,
Yes,
all those
yes.
places. But it has 7 to 11 alcohols in
Oh,
it.
Lordy.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yes, the
I just
ones
know
they
that
make there.
It tastes
Yeah.
like chocolate milk, and so you
You
can
can add a
drink them-
banana.
Yeah.
Banana bushwhacker.
Oh,
Have you had one?
Oh my gosh, no. We need to go down there. Honey, we need to make us a girl trip.
We do.
Sampling bushwhackers. We'll
Oh my
call it the
gosh.
Bushwhacker Tour.
What?
The Bushwhacker
Sponsored
Tour.
by Clean Spirits.
Yes. Oh, we can do that. Perfect. I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I think Stephanie and Joy are in. We're in.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so
Yes.
let me ask this. So
Yes.
you're here. You work for Nashville Lifestyles.
I
Are you
do.
happy here?
Oh, yeah, I love Nashville. We did the kiddo thing. So my son is 23 now. We were a little afraid to do the kiddo thing in LA. You know what I'm saying? Truly, because LA, it's great, but it's tough. We're both
I
showbiz
lived in LA
people.
and San Diego too.
Yes.
For me, it was the same way. I can't race. I'm not. Please, if you're there, I love the state.
I love it too. I'm a California girl.
I mean,
I
I
was born
love
there.
it. I couldn't figure out how can I get kids to sports and work and the money of private schools. Like everything was like too much for me. I had to go back. For me, this was a compromise because I lived in a very small town of about 5,000 people growing up, and then lived in Seattle, San Diego, New York, Boston. Nashville for me had enough of the small town feel that I felt comfortable raising the kids here.
And you have balance. That's the other thing. You know, but again, I'm still singing. I still do a little bit of acting, work, at the magazine. I do some coaching. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do here and still raise a kid.
I
It's
love
hard
your
to do
coaching
that.
though, and I really want people to know that you're doing that, because one of the things that I can see how you would be so great at this because of your personality, because you have such a uplifting but fun
thank you. That's
personality.
sweet. Thank you.
But you understand when you can and can't say things and when it's appropriate. And not everyone knows that, right? That takes
No.
That
Well, obviously,
No.
think of our administration and some of the things that we've had to say. Okay, we don't need to say it that way.
We can say it a
Let's
little
say
different.
let's say it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other challenge too that's interesting. It's not only what you can and can't say personally, like your filter, but because we have 4 strong generations now, like in the workforce, just as adults, and we're getting ready to bring a 5th, what they call the alpha generation, which is like that, 15 to 22, 23, that's kind of starting to move into the workforce.
They call them the alpha. What are they
The
calling
alpha
them?
generation, just because it's like the new, they're starting over. They've got, Gen Z is the one, are the young 20s now into, late 20s.
My kids are like, what
so
are
your
19
kids
and
are
20-year-old?
19 and 20 is still probably Gen Z, but
It's
moving
on
into
the
alpha.
cusp,
Yeah, it's on the
right?
cusp.
Because
It's on the
my
cusp.
other kids are 25 and 29.
So those are real Gen Zers.
Yeah, those are that's what I consider a
Yes,
true Gen
a
Zer,
true
and
Gen
they are
Zer.
Gen Zers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. In the workforce, you've got the baby boomers still.
Yeah.
You've got your Gen X,
Yeah.
which is kind of transitions into Gen Y or millennials.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate about are there two
Yeah.
specific generations with Gen Y and millennials, and then you got your Gen Zers.
And they all communicate
They all
different.
communicate
Yeah.
differently because of technology, because of, just all of it,
Yeah.
how it's all changed.
Yeah.
So it's not only filtering yourself and what to say, it's understanding how to communicate so that you resonate with like all 4 generations. Like, let's say if you're leading a company or you're leading a meeting or you're doing a keynote or you're just living your life. How do you talk to younger
so
families?
true. It's
How
so
do you talk
true.
to older people? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons some of the companies we have been successful is because I listen to my kids.
Yes.
So I've noticed, I'm just going to
That's
tell you
great.
this. I will come to a meeting, and we will be in a meeting, and you have your executives, and you have everybody, and everyone's equally important in a different way. For me, I want to hear what the younger generations
Good
thinks.
for you.
Oh, because otherwise we're leaving out that whole generation and
Well, not only
communicating
that,
to them. Yeah.
They have some really different and
do.
really good ideas.
They do.
That's what's interesting, and that's what when I'm talking to coaches. Another partner of mine and I have a podcast where we talk to coaches. We interview coaches as 2 coaches.
Yeah.
It's called Pull the Shoot, and it's great. It's on LinkedIn and all that stuff. But
That's
we
awesome.
talk to coaches,
Yeah.
and and it's what's interesting is these coaches all even say, and they're all different kinds of coaches.
Yeah.
And they all have different market segments and different focuses, and they all say the younger generation a lot of times has a better way to do it, or they have interesting insight. So don't discard them. Let them feel like they're part of the team.
Well, I
you
think
know?
I communicate a little bit like my kids, because for me to be close to them,
Yes.
I've had to learn to communicate. And a lot of that, I'm just going to be really candid, is text.
Yep.
I mean, I had to accept the
Yes.
fact that they may not get back to my text, but they wanted me to respond. So
Yes.
I've really tried, because my first background was psychology, I've really
Yes.
tried to understand instead of getting mad. But the first time it happened, I got to tell you this. So my son was at Father Ryan Duquesne, and he could tell the story. He texted me. I said, "What do you think about this? Is this okay?" And so in my family, we said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir." I was
Yes.
raised in
Well,
the
that's
South.
Southern.
That's
That's
Southern.
Southern.
Listen, when I moved
Yeah.
the kids to Seattle and Spokane, they got in trouble in school because they didn't like the yes ma'am, yes sir.
Isn't it interesting?
The teachers felt like they thought, I got called to the office, the kids were being disrespectful.
Yes.
But in this,
Yes.
when they went to private school
Yes,
here,
that's right.
if they didn't say that, they got in trouble
That's right.
to the teacher. So Duquesne responded, I think he was in 9th grade. Yeah, Y-A, yeah. And I said, excuse me? And he responded again. And I said, did you say yes, ma'am? Or did you say yeah? And he goes, I said, yeah, Y-A. And I go, I need to talk to you as soon as you come home. I was so upset.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was being disrespectful. We laugh about this now.
Yes.
So disrespectful. By the time I got to my second child, of course I understood when
Yes.
he said yeah, that's how they, and then Duquesne gave me this whole lesson because he's was my, at the time, my perfect child, right?
Yes,
the
of course.
oldest, the
Of
perfect child.
course.
He went into this whole discussion at dinner because he got in trouble. I was like, you cannot communicate to me like I'm your peer.
Yeah.
You don't say yeah.
Yes.
You say yes, ma'am.
Right.
Now you speed forward to my fourth child. That doesn't even come out of her mouth. He had
It's
to
funny how
explain
we
to
get
me-
as they,
and as I get younger,
Yeah.
or as we get older,
Yeah.
he had to explain to me he wasn't being disrespectful.
Yes.
That's how they talk, and even the teachers know that on text because there's different text language.
Yes, there is.
So think about this. So Duquesne's 29. He was probably 14. Think of how now we understand emojis
That's
and
right.
LOL.
That's right.
I still remember the first time I got an LOL. I started asking the kids. That's why I think I understand these generations because I had
Yes.
my kids teach me.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of parents. They understand that. But now, what is going to resonate in the workplace? So this is a little bit of what I talk about. You can text that way back and forth because text language, again, is different than email.
Yeah.
Than verbal.
Yeah.
Than a big, written policy thing in a company. They're all different in their structure and
Yeah.
in what you do. But you just got to know the difference, and you got to know when and when not to use it. Like you just said, that's a perfect example. You can't use that to me.
Yeah.
You can use it to your friends.
Well, even to a boss. I'm
Or
just
to a
telling
boss.
you, if you're
Yes.
reporting to a supervisor,
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, dude, what's up?"
Exactly.
In some situations,
Exactly.
like if you're working with the governor or if you're working with a doctor, it's
Right.
really not the way.
That's right.
Now, if you're working in a social media, or everybody's different, right? But I
Yes.
think it's really important to coach that because some people cannot read emotionally that difference.
That's exactly right. And especially if they haven't been exposed to it.
Yeah, if you
My
never-
son, I have to say this, because I just have one kiddo. He used to call me bra. Hey, bra. Like bro. And
my
I'm
son does that now.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, guess what? I'm not your bra.
Yeah.
I'm your mom. And same
Yeah.
thing. But now he's so articulate. And all my
Yeah.
friends that talk to him are like, oh my gosh, like he's so different than he was when he was like 17. He talks like an adult now. It's
Well,
like,
there's
that's
a
'cause mom,
transition, and I
Yeah.
have to, and I want to say this as a mom of 3 boys.
Yes.
That transition that happens between the age of like 18 and 25,
Yes.
26
Yes.
is huge.
It's huge.
Because, and my older two forget that their younger brother is at an age where when they were 20,
Yes.
you're not,
Quite there yet.
no,
You're not quite there yet, especially with a guy, with a boy. Yeah.
That whole, and then it hits, like my second sentence hit, it just is like, oh wow.
Yes.
Then all this did work. It did, but it takes time.
It does take
honestly.
time, and think about it. It depends also on what they're transitioning into.
Yeah.
Are they transitioning into a conservative kind of a work environment,
Yeah.
or is it, a restaurant or a auto parts or whatever? So think about our business community right now in this day and age. Like, you got 4 generations, a 5th one coming up. You've got not only that, but you've got some international stuff going on now. I mean, America's workforce is the most melting pot
Yeah.
of a structure now than it's ever been, just because we've gotten a lot of,
Well, like
whatever.
I can tell
yeah.
you when you go to the Middle East,
Yes.
if you don't pay attention to how you're acting in certain situations, that's it. There's
I
no
imagine
second.
that.
Well, I mean, like you can't crossing your legs.
Yes.
This is considered disrespectful. You're never ever to point your foot towards someone. To them, that's saying a bad word.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
interesting. Well, same with the Asian countries,
Yeah.
right? There's
Yes.
a formality.
Yes.
I remember when I was doing keynotes for an international, it was like an international company of physicians, and they talked about how to present your business card. Like,
Yeah.
there, you don't present it
No,
like
no,
we
you
do.
don't. You don't.
present it where they can read it
Yes.
face down, and you.
Yes.
So there's all of these things that, and it's not that you have to learn every single one of them, but you've got.
But some of it you have to.
Yeah, some
the
of it you
business
do.
card thing. The first time I learned that, I was taught before I went in
Yes.
because I worked so much in the Asian countries.
Oh, I bet you had to
I
learn
didn't
it.
even know. I remember the first time I went on stage in Vietnam, I made a major mistake. I said, so first of all, my dad was in the Vietnam War, and I was trying to grapple with how am I going to, because people ended up asking me questions. It was a huge audience, and they had dancers that were on stage before I went on that were not something we would have done here.
Right.
It wasn't the FDA, the director of the FDA was there. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm just going to act like I'm not going to act shocked.
Yes.
And then I said, I'm so happy that we're on this tour. It was a 13-country tour of the Asian countries. And they were very upset. Because did you know that you're not supposed to, they don't, so they explained in Vietnam, they don't like you to ever say Asian countries. You have to say Vietnamese.
In other words, they want
they're offended by
yes,
that.
Yes.
They're offended by that, and I didn't know that at that point. And then found out the same thing in Malaysia. So it was a learning curve for me.
Yes.
And those were things that mattered to them. So if it mattered to them, it mattered to me.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you've been around all over the world, so I can imagine that for you. But imagine that. I mean, that's
everyone
something that we have to know.
Yeah,
We have to
everyone
know.
holds their, and I think that's important that Americans know that. I have to say
Absolutely.
that. I feel like we are at a disadvantage. I've said this a lot. All these other countries travel all over the world. A lot of the people in the United States haven't.
That's right.
But they have different rules about eating.
Yes.
They have different rules about alcohol. I mean,
Yes.
there's like in Saudi Arabia, it's illegal. If you go there, you can be put in prison and they can flank you. And it's in the regulations. If you ever read it when you go over. No, I'm not scared of Saudi Arabia, but you need to know that before you go over.
Sure.
If you have alcohol in your bag, you're in trouble. And that's not really where you want to go and get in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think coaching people, what I love about coaching in today's world is, a parent teaching a child, or even me like talking to my husband or to a coworker. We've had different situations even in the office just to coach, not because people were trying to do anything bad.
Right.
It was just they didn't know.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so I think it's so important what you're doing. I really do.
Thank you. I really love it. I think it's important, and part of what I
And you've
like
written a
about
book.
I've written a book, Dazzle Your Listener.
Yeah.
And it's basically, now that's just a basic. This is kind of these are the steps to learn how to communicate better. It can be for a mom. It can be for a church school, whatever, or it can be for a professional, a CEO. It is just very basic, kind of the steps to start to walk that walk. But the truth is, what I was going to say is it's not only important to understand like all the cultural differences and stuff, but it's also important to just sit back and listen for a minute and really understand who you're talking to and try to
agree.
resonate. Because here's the real bottom line guts thing that I talk to people about all the time. We're all the same. We're all human. We might come from different countries. We might be different age ranges and all that. But the beautiful thing is we all really want to. The thing about communication that I love is it really engages like 4 of the 5 senses. It engages eyes, ears, voice, and heart.
Yeah.
So it's like what we want out of a dialogue with whether it's one person, 100 people, or 1,000,000 people is we want connection and resonating. And we want there to be some kind of a transmission of I care about you and I care about what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
And every human is like that. So
Every
that's
human.
why I really like this work, because it's like I want you to understand that this person across from you wants the same thing you want. They don't
do.
want to suck. They don't want you to, they don't want you to be bad, or they
Yeah.
don't want to be mad at you or insulted. They just want a dialogue, because we're all really kind of are looking for the same thing.
We are, and we want to be
Yes.
accepted and loved.
Absolutely.
And we
That's
want
what it's
people
all
to
about.
care, which is why I think the best advice my father, as a businesswoman, my father ever gave me, it was that I should walk into a room and just listen and
Yes,
not talk.
always.
It was probably the biggest thing that helped me in my pharmaceutical and biotech career. Is every position I went into, I just listened.
That's
and
smart.
learned. And it helps because otherwise you go in and you kind of tell them what you want, and if it doesn't match, then to me this is a basic key of life.
Yes.
You've got to care about the person in front of you and their feelings, and not just how you feel, and then you can come together and really communicate right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the key to it. And that's a little bit of what I talk about are the different styles of communication. So your advantage is to sit back. That's so smart. Your advantage is to sit back and go, okay, I'm going to just observe this person. Are they a technical communicator? Do they lay things out? Like if they're a physician or an accountant or somebody that their brain resonates where they're placing things, they're bullet pointing. Are they, I'll talk about it a little bit, are they a kinesthetic communicator where everything is about
action,
feeling and and the room and the energy? Or
I'm a kinesthetic
you are. I definitely.
Well,
think
I know. I mean, because I was, as a psychologist, I went through test after test after test.
Yes, I can see that.
I was as high as any guy in the room, because a lot of men, and people don't realize this, are kinesthetic learners. Did you know that?
No, I would think of them to be technical.
Well, when you kinesthetically learn, when you're in school, like when you're little, so think about little boys, it's an action oriented.
No,
right?
that's very true.
That's why when they're little, they have to do action. They don't, just boys can't sit still.
Right.
So when they're little, that's how they learn.
Yes.
That's why really taking, like, going out to, boys need to be going out and playing outside, not sitting at a desk all day.
Yes, they're tactile learners, which is kinesthetic, yes.
So we had to, like, I had problems with all three of mine learning, so everything that we did had to be around jumping jacks or push-ups or, like, basketball. And I taught at the Catholic Church Sunday School. I did different things, and I would take them to the basketball court because I'm trying to teach them. So I think what you're doing, first of all, singing is a gift from God, in my opinion. It's so beautiful. I always say, I wish I had that gift. I don't. So congratulations for getting that gift.
Thank you.
I mean that.
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone, if we could have that gift, like my daughter was 3 months old and she could sing perfect pitch.
That's
like,
great.
she was born that way, like
she
you
was born
talked
that way.
about.
Yes.
And then because my mother was her grandmother, she encouraged her how to sing.
Yes.
And
not to be intimidated by it. That's great.
But she's intimidated. Well, it's still that younger generation in front of a crowd.
Yeah, but because they were isolated with technology. So that's okay. She can get
over that.
Yeah.
But I really want people to go check out your book and your website where people can go, or how do they contact you about coaching?
Just jannalandry.com. I've got a website that kind of talks a little bit about the process and such, and I've got a calendar. And here's what I love, because I'm a blabber. I love to communicate, and I told you this. Just put on my calendar 15 minutes or 30 minutes of talking on the phone. I've had people call me and say, okay, I am having a problem, Jan. I've got like this boss, or I've got this coworker, or I'm getting ready to do a keynote and I'm terrified. What do I do? And there's things you can do to
really quickly.
Really quickly to go, okay, I got to just get the little brain in, everything kind of in sync.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of exercises. This is the stuff that showbiz people have been using for 100 years, and it works. A lot of the physicality and the physical stuff works. So it's just talking yourself off the ledge, learning.
Well, I have one last question. Because I've always wondered this, when someone trained in acting and they have a scene where they're going to cry. Do they work up to that, or they just know how to instantly cry?
If they're good, they know how to instantly cry. And again, think of it this way, you guys. It's muscle memory. It's like, okay, if somebody says, I need you to cry in a scene. Now, again, the thing about TV is you've got a little bit of a ramp up because the scenes are short.
So
oftentimes.
you gradually work up to it.
You do. You can.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if you have to on the spot, there are brilliant people that you've seen them in film. They can just do it on the spot.
Yeah.
And again, it's muscle memory. You train yourself to think of something sad, and then again, you work on that, and you work on that, and it can be instant. Yeah. Same with laughing. Same with anything where you get like violently angry.
Yeah.
All of that, again, is that subconscious, bringing that subconscious to the front, and that muscle memory of doing it, and then being real. You got to be real with it.
Yeah.
So then the trick to layer on the real part so it doesn't look fake is to make it in the moment of whatever it is, and that goes back to listening. One of my first acting coaches here, Bill Fahili, he's awesome. He doesn't do it anymore, but he is brilliant. And what he used to make us do for the first probably 4 or 5 weeks of the class, we would sit there and I would say, so do you like me? And you'd go, so do I like you? So do you like me? And you'd repeat, so do I like you? And you do that for 5 minutes. And if I'm going to deliver that differently, then you're going to respond differently depending on how I'm delivering it, right?
Your tone, your inflection,
everything.
So
what are you doing? You're listening. Like you're not going to make a move or say a thing until you really listen and understand, okay, how did she just say that? This is how I'd respond. And the more differently the person is giving it to you, the more differently you're responding. And that's how you start to train muscle memory for reaction in acting.
That's
or in
awesome.
singing, or in everything.
It's just training.
It's just training.
Yeah.
It really is.
I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I want to have you back. But
you.
more than that, I really do want to go on this trip to Floribama.
Me too. And drink bushwhackers. Oh, we've
Bushwhackers.
invited you guys. So,
Joy wasn't in here. She's in here now. We invited
Yeah.
both of you to go on a Clean
Yes.
Spirits.
Clean Spirits.
Bushwhacker tour to Floribama where they have music
Sure.
every night. She and I have a mutual admiration for this area.
Yes, we do.
I spent 12 years there with Susan going almost every night. But no,
And I want to
Like
buy a
every
beach house
weekend.
there. So
well, I want one there too.
me too. So let's work on that.
So thank you for today.
Thank
And
you.
Thank
This
you
has
for
been awesome,
It was
Christina.
so much fun. Thank you.